with Job. You know, what is one of our main goals as a Christian? We have a lot of goals as Christians, but one of our main goals as a Christian is to share the gospel, is it not? Should we try to be evangelizing? Should we try to share our faith and try to see people get saved? Now, here's sometimes the problem we come when we share the gospel. We tell people they're sinners. You're a sinner. You're bad in essence. You need to get saved. You don't go to church like I do. You don't read the Bible like I do. You're not spiritual like me. And if we're not careful, what happens is that we don't identify with people when we share the gospel. And so it appears like we're looking down on them. We're casting judgment on them. And so one of the great things I've found in witnessing is to share with people. And I come to them as a pastor. You know, of course, pastors are supposed to be way up here, although, you know, we're not. But I say, you know, we're all sinners. I'm a sinner, you're a sinner. I'm no better than you, you're no better than me. We've all sinned to come short of the glory of God. Now, what does that do? That takes somebody, and they're ready to listen now. They're not defensive. They're not thinking that you're picking on them. And so this is a very smart way of getting Job to listen and relating and communicating with Job. All right, so this is what he did there. Now, verse also number 5. These are just sub points, but you have overstated your righteousness. Now, in Job's defense, sometimes he got to the point where it made it sound like he was sinless. Was he sinless? No. And so he's listening to Job defend himself to the point where almost like Job crossed over into a spirit of pride to say how spiritual he was. You remember who was supposed to be real spiritual back in Jesus' day that were very prideful? The Pharisees. Did they follow the Bible? Yeah, yes and no. They didn't follow the Bible concerning Jesus, but they tried to keep the law. Did they fast? Did they pray? Did they give alms? But they did it all wrong. Everything was for show. Alms, I'm great. Praying, I'm great. You know, everything they did was try to, for their honor and their own glory. And so that was the problem that you have with them. But so let's see what he says to Job. He says, you've overstated your righteousness. Look at verse 9 and 10 of chapter 33. I am clean. Look at verse 8. Surely thou hast spoken in mine hearing, and I've heard the voice of thy words, saying, I am clean without transgression. I am innocent, neither is there iniquity in me. Behold, he findeth occasion against me. He counteth me for his enemy. And so, in essence, he's pointing out, now, Job, you say you're perfect, but, you know, now he's not like the other guys who are saying, Job, you're wicked. But he's looking at things, you know, sensibly and saying, Job, you know, you're making it sound like you've never sinned, and God is now your enemy. And so, therefore, he's trying to get Job to understand that, yes, he's a great spiritual man, but he's not perfect. Although the Bible just say he was perfect, upright, you know, all these other great things. But, you know, so he mentions that. Now, number 6, he says, God does speak. He is not silent. Remember, the first point is what? God is not silent. So God does speak. He's not silent. He speaks in a variety of ways. One of the great frustrations that Job had was that he felt like God was not listening to him. If you remember, he said, I look to my left, I look to my right, I look up, I look down. I can't find God anywhere. He's nowhere. Oh, if somebody could go and plead my case before God. And he made this statement over and over again that it appeared that God was disinterested, not available, silent. And so Elihu's trying to encourage him that, listen, God does listen to you. And God is he's not silent. And of course, God would speak Our next lesson is when God speaks, and boy, when he spoke, it was a little rough. Now, God is not silent. He speaks in a variety of ways. Well, what are some of the variety of ways? Well, look at verse number 13. Verse number 13. It says this. This is chapter 33. Yes. 33:13. Yes. Why dost thou strive against him? Against God. For he giveth not account of any of his matters. Now understand that verse. Why do you fight or argue against God? He doesn't have to give you any answers. Do you ever find that's kind of frustrating? You wish God would give you some answers. But you know what? He doesn't owe us any answers. It's kind of like the little kid. You know, kids, you got to keep these kids awake here down here. Jackson, let me ask you a question. It's kind of like kids that, now I forgot what I was going to say because I was going to ask Jackson something. Oh, yeah, yes. You ask your mom and dad, son, can I do this? And what's normally the answer? No, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is what my wife tells me. So don't feel bad. She says, I know whatever I ask you, the very first answer is going to be no. And then, of course, then she whittles me down to a yes. But anyhow, but has your mom and dad ever said this? They don't give you an answer. They say, because I said so. That's all right. You can say, you're a mom, right? Is that what you tell your daughter? Because I said so. But why? Doesn't matter why. I said so. I'm the parent. I don't know an explanation. We're not going to discuss this. Now, you can if you want to. But, you don't have to. Is God our Father? Does he have to come down and say, oh, by the way, is it okay with you if I do this? Me and the devil, we had this little bit of discussion, and, he doesn't think you're faithful. So would it be okay if I let some bad things happen to you? Is that all right? He doesn't owe you any explanation. And that's why when we all go through bad things in life, one of the first things we ask is, why? And sometimes we look at God and say, Lord, why did you let this happen? And guess what? You're not going to get an answer because you know why? He doesn't owe you an answer. He doesn't owe you an answer. And so that's just the way it is. Now you can ask him why, but don't expect an answer. Now, look at verse 15 and 16. In a dream, in a vision, at the night, when sleep falleth unto men in the slumbering upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of the men and sealeth their instruction. So he says, God works in different ways. How does he work? In a dream, right? Although, didn't Eliphaz have a dream that was not correct? So you got to be careful about those dreams. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. In a dream, in a vision, God gives visions to prophets a night. Deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumbering upon the bed, and he openeth the ears of men. Sometimes God allows you to hear things. Didn't God convey messages to Joseph, the stepfather of Jesus, in a dream, in a vision, to Mary? And so there are many times that God speaks that way. So you're saying, he may show, he may not. Verse 27 and 28. Look at verse 27 and 28. He looketh upon men. And if any say, I've sinned, and perceiveth that which is right, and it profiteth me not, he will profited me not. He will deliver his soul from going into the pit, and his life shall see the light. So what's he saying? That if you have sinned, Job, he's not saying you have sinned, but he said, if you have sinned, Job, you can go to God, he will forgive you, and he'll bring you back and restore you. But once again, he's not telling him, yes, you did sin, like the first three guys. All right, so he is very sensible about his evaluation of Job. All right, number 2 speech. That's the first speech. Second speech. Elihu's second speech. His second speech says, God is what? Look up on a board to see the answer. God is just. God is just. The word just, short for justice. His justice is always good and right. He's just. Now, so his second speech is chapter 34. So let's pick out a few things. Number one, under this, he says, although you men are older, he's talking to the three guys, and more learned than I, please hear me. So once again, he's repeating this. He says, hear my words, verse 2 of chapter 34. O you wise men, and give ear unto me, ye that have knowledge. So once again, he's kind of like a preacher when people aren't paying attention. What's he saying? Listen to me. Hear me. Don't sleep on me. Don't daydream on me. Don't ignore me. Don't think I don't know what I'm talking about. That's what he's telling these men. All right. Number 2, he says, Job. Now he's going to be very direct with Job at this point. He says, Job, you are wrong to question the ways of God. Look at verses 5 and 6. For Job has said, I am righteous, and God hath taken away my judgment. Should I lie against my right? My wound is incurable without my transgression. So in essence, what he's saying, I don't deserve this, but yet he's saying, be careful that you question what God is doing in your life. Number 3, God cannot do evil. He's good and just. His dealings are always equitable, even when they don't seem to be. Look, and that's verses 10 through 20. So let's look at verse number 10. Therefore hearken unto me, ye men of understanding. Far be it from God that he should do wickedness, and from the Almighty that he should commit iniquity. Verse 12, yea, surely God will not do wickedly, neither will the Almighty pervert judgment. So let's think about this. What was the assumption of the first 3 men about Job? He was evil, he was wicked, and God was punishing him, right? Now, if Job was not wicked and evil, but God was still punishing him, what would that make God? He's not just then. There's no justice. It would be like if an innocent man stands before a judge and the judge pronounces him to be guilty. He's innocent. So the judge would be at fault. The judge would lack character or discipline or discernment. And he's saying, listen, if this is, you're claiming that your Job is claiming he's not wicked, but yet God has still brought these things in your life. God's a just God. So can you put 2 and 2 together? If you put 2 and 2 together, it says that God is not judging you, but he's letting these things happen to you for a reason. So this is where he is trying to get these men to understand, because they were either or. It's like, either if you're good, you don't have anything bad happen to you. If you're bad, you have bad things happen to you. And Elijah's saying, wait a minute, no. You can be good and bad things can still happen to you, because God's a just God. So, number 4. And then, of course, verse number 17 says he's just also. All right? Number 4, sub-point under this. God is just in his dealings because he is omniscient and he knows everything. Omniscient knows everything, same thing. But he is omniscient and he knows everything. So his dealings are just. Now, did the 3 men know everything? Did Job know everything? No. But God knows everything. And because God knows everything, who are we to question what God does? He knows everything. We don't know everything. We know some things, but not everything. Look at verse number 21. Verse 21 of Job 30, where are we at, 34? Verse 21. For his eyes are upon the ways of man, and he seeth all his goings. Wow. That's a pretty powerful verse. Did you see that? His eyes are upon the ways of man. That means he sees everything we do. And he sees all his goings. So, not everybody sees everything we do or says or think about, but God does. That's pretty, I hate to use the word scary, but it's scary to think that God sees everything and knows everything. There's nothing hid from him. Nothing hid from him. And so he says, he knows everything. But look at verse number 23. For he will not lay upon a man more than right, that he should enter into judgment with God. He will not lay upon man more than right. In essence, God is a just God. He's fair. He's right. The things that Job's going through, it's not because he's wrong. It's just because God allowed that to happen. Verse number 25. Therefore he knoweth their works, and he overturneth them in the night, so they are destroyed. He's talking about wicked men. He can overturn their bad deeds. But a righteous man, that's a different story. All right, number 5. He acts in fairness because he knows everything about everyone and knows what everybody does. And that's basically what we just said, right? So, once again, there's, verses, look at, we already looked at those. The next statement is this. Job, although you are hurt and confused, it is not right for you to tell God what to do. That's verses 31 through 37. Look at verse 35. Verse 35, Job has spoken without knowledge, and his words were without wisdom. Now, Job was showing a lack of knowledge and wisdom in defending himself and saying this is not fair, this is not right, and everything else. All right, look at verse number 37. For he addeth rebellion unto sin, he clappeth his hands among us, and multiplieth his words against God. So what is Elihu, or Elihu, or however you want to pronounce this guy's name? He's seeing something. He's seeing a change in Job. Now here's what you need to follow. He's seeing a change in Job. He's seen a man who's righteous, but now he's defensive, and he's getting a little proud, and he's getting angry at these guys, and he's defending himself more, and he's getting a little upset with God, and he's wishing he was dead. See, so we're seeing some things, and these are normal, common things that Job would have experienced. Now, the last thing is this, of this point. While you maintain your spiritual integrity, it appears as though your attitudes toward God and yourself need to be tested and refined. Now, that's the key, right there. Notice what he said. While you maintain your spiritual integrity, which you did, it appears as though your attitudes towards God and yourself need to be tested and refined. And so, though, Job was the best person at that time. But could you get a little bit better? Is there always room for a little improvement? What do you think, Brother Allen? There's always room for improvement. Have you been improving? All right, you didn't come to church on Easter, did you?
I was sick.
You were sick. Okay, do you have a doctor's note?
You're a doctor.
I am a doctor. I'll write a note to myself, yes.
Okay.
You feeling better, Alan?
Yes, I'm feeling
All right, man, we missed you in the choir. You had your big number ready to sing.
I know, I was ready.
You were going to shine, man. All right, I don't know why we was talking about you, because we got to finish this lesson up. Anyhow, he says you need to be refined. Look at verse number 36. Verse number 36 says this, my desire is that Job may be tried unto the end because of his answers for wicked men. He says, I hope that when God finishes working on you, tries you to the end. And didn't Job say, when I am tried and purified, I shall come forth as gold? Hey, there's a song like that. I shall come forth as gold. He already said, a lot of these things he already said, but there needed to be a reminder. All right, third and last speech. I have 4 speeches. I got to hurry up. God is great. Chapter 35. All right, number 1. Why claim innocence, Job? If it seems to make no difference to God whether you are innocent or not. Chapter 35, verse 2 and 3. Thinkest thou this to be right, that thou sayest, my righteousness is more than God's? For thou sayest, what advantage will it be unto thee? And what profit shall I if I be cleansed from evil? And he's saying, now Job, wait a minute. You're now making some bad statements. You're saying it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you're spiritual. Yes, it matters that you're spiritual. Yes, just because you're going through that, you can't just say, well, if I'm good or bad, it doesn't matter. Bad's going to happen to me. And so he's in essence, he's saying your view about your righteousness, you're starting to slip off, the edge there, if you will. Number 2, God's ways are higher than our ways. God is sovereign and in control. Verses 4 through 8 talks about that. Number 3, because God's ways are higher than ours, nothing that we do can manipulate God. And because God's ways are higher than ours, we need to simply trust in Him. Let's look at verses 5, 6, and 7. Verse 5. This is chapter 35. Look unto the heavens and see. Of course, that's high up, right? Behold the clouds, which are higher than I. Say, He's from up above. We're down here. If thou sinnest, what dost thou doest against him? Or if thy transgression be multiplied, what doest thou unto him? If thou be righteous, what givest thou him? Or what receiveth he of thine hand? The wickedness may hurt a man as thou art, and thy righteousness may profit the Son of Man. So, in essence, he's saying, you just need to trust God no matter what is going on because He is above all. Number 5, sometimes God chooses to give sufficient help through adversity rather than deliverance from adversity. Can you think of the guy in the New Testament who had a thorn in the flesh that God never took away, but what did God give him? Grace. My grace is sufficient for thee. So he tells Job, maybe God's not taking away your pain, but God is going to give you grace and strength. Verses 9 through 11. Number 6, God does not respond to pride or insincerity. Verses 12 through 15. And what was Job starting to get a little proud? He called him out on that. Number 7, you need to be careful, Job, what you say to God about Him, and be careful about what you say, for God is God. Look at verse number 16. Therefore doth Job open his mouth in vain? He multiplieth his words without knowledge. Job, you're starting to say things you shouldn't be saying. And so be careful what you say to God. The last speech is this: God is sovereign. What's the word sovereign mean? God rules and reigns. He's sovereign. Sovereignty. And so God is sovereign. You have that for number 4? Let's put that one up there. God is sovereign. That's Job 36 and 37. All right. Do you have that last one? All right, great. 36 and 37. Just a few points and we'll be finished here. Number 1, God is our maker and source of true knowledge. Look at verse number 4 of chapter 36. It says, for truly my words shall not be false. He that is perfect in knowledge is with thee. He's the only one who has true knowledge. Number 2, God is sovereign over both the wicked and the righteous. He rules over wicked people. He rules over righteous people. He rules over everybody. Number 3, sometimes God afflicts the righteous to refine them and to humble them. Look at verse 8 through 10. Thy wickedness may hurt a man as thou art. I'm sorry, am I in verse, chapter 36, I'm sorry. Chapter 36, verse 8. And if they be bound in fetters and behold in courts of affliction, then He showeth them their work and their transgressions that they have exceeded. He openeth also their ear to discipline and commandeth that they return from iniquity. Was Job hearing from God that he was a sinner? No. So he said, if you were a sinner, God would have revealed that to you. He would have shown you through the Holy Spirit, of course. Verse number 4, a godly person needs to learn to be content no matter what, as he trusts and obey God. Look at verse 11 and 12. If they obey and serve Him, they shall spend their years in prosperity and their years in pleasure. But if they obey not, they shall perish by the sword, and they shall die without knowledge. Now, verse 11 says, if they obey and serve Him, they shall spend their days in prosperity and have years of pleasure. Did he already have that? Yes. But did he lose his prosperity? Did he lose his pleasure? So what I think Elihu is saying, listen, if you'll still be faithful to God, what's He going to do? He's going to restore your prosperity, and He's going to restore your pleasure. Just hang in there. It's going to get better, I believe, is the message He's given him. Number 5, God will certainly hear the prayers of the afflicted who truly seek Him. Look at verse 15. He delivereth the poor in his affliction and openeth their ears in oppression. Keep praying, He says. God will listen to you. Don't give up in prayer. Very important. Sometimes when you don't hear from God, what do? You stop praying. That's the worst thing. You keep on praying. Ask and shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open unto you. Keep on asking, keep on seeking, keep on knocking. Don't give up in prayer. This is a challenge He gives to Job. Number 6, you need to get your focus on yourself, Job, off yourself, Job, and onto God as your sovereign Lord. Get your focus off yourself and on God. And the last thing is, as a sovereign God over all creation, God is in control of your life. You need to trust in God whether you understand His ways or not. That's the entire chapter 37. Now, we didn't have time to look at all these passages. Just kind of, once again, skimmed over a lot of chapters here. But I think you see that this man brought a lot of good points to Job. And God now is going to show up next. And I believe that God used this man to kind of introduce now what God's going to say. Because some of the things that God is going to say are going to be similar to what Elihu just said unto Job. All right, we're finished here with our lesson. We're going to go to prayer. If you've watched online, thank you. And for those that are here, let's take out our prayer sheet, if you would. And let's pray for some folks here tonight in the service. Continue to pray for us.